Hi, my name is Lucy Van Clever. I'm 68 years old, a retired teacher, a grandmother, and a woman who has lived long enough to understand that life teaches its hardest lessons quietly, and sometimes painfully. People often see the calmness in me now and assume I've always been this wise, this patient, this sure of myself. They don't realize that most of what I know came from mistakes I watched in my own family, mistakes that shaped us, stretched us, and almost broke us. Before I go on, let me tell you this: my story is not a quick one. It's not the kind of story where things make sense immediately. It's a story about family, and family, if you've lived long enough, is complicated. Beautiful, yes. Worth fighting for, absolutely. But complicated. When I was young, my family looked perfect from the outside. People used to whisper things like, "The Van Clevers have it all," or "What a blessed home." My father, Albert, was a businessman. A sharp, calculating, commanding presence. You could feel him walk into a room before you actually saw him. He was the kind of man who believed deeply in his own brilliance. He had this unshakable confidence that almost felt like a wall. Nothing could penetrate it. And my mother, Margaret, was his opposite in every gentle way possible. She was a nurse with a soft voice, kind hands, and a heart that refused to harden, no matter how tough life became. She believed fiercely in helping others, in treating people with respect, and in living with humility. I sometimes wondered how two such different souls ended up together, but life has always had a strange way of pairing opposites. Then there was my older brother, Daniel. He was the pride of the family, handsome, naturally talented, confident, and charming in that effortless way that made adults adore him and kids want to be his friend. Teachers praised him constantly. Neighbors talked about him like he was destined for greatness. And all that attention, without any real grounding, shaped him in dangerous ways. He grew up believing he was special, not because of what he did, but simply because he existed. It wasn't entirely his fault. People around him reinforced it. My father especially. Daniel watched him closely. Children don't learn from lectures, they learn from what they see. And what Daniel saw was a man who refused to admit weakness, who took credit for everything, who believed he was superior. By the time my father began building his business, Daniel had already started talking like he owned the future. He would say things like, "One day, this company will be mine," or "Dad is building everything for me," or "I deserve to be part of it." He never talked about learning the work or earning his place. He just assumed it was waiting for him like a throne. I remember questioning him once. I asked, "Why don't you start helping Dad now? Learn how things work so you'll be ready." He looked at me with this almost amused expression and said, "Lucy, people like me don't work our way up. We inherit." That sentence stayed with me all these years. My mother tried, she really did. She quietly reminded him that success without discipline dissolves quickly. But Daniel heard only what matched his desires. And my father? Oh, he fed Daniel's ego like it was a trophy he wanted polished. Every compliment he gave Daniel added to that sense of entitlement. It was a dangerous combination, a proud father and a greedy son. Two fires feeding each other, waiting for the right conditions to turn into an explosion. The day my father gave Daniel access to part of his inheritance was the day the foundation of our family began to crack. Daniel wasn't ready. He hadn't earned it. He didn't respect money. He didn't understand responsibility. The moment that money reached his hands, he transformed. He began dressing like royalty, spending recklessly, investing in things he didn't understand, throwing money around like it grew in the backyard. My father didn't stop him. In fact, he bragged. He liked the idea of his son being seen as a young, wealthy investor. He didn't care whether Daniel was actually making smart choices. He only cared about appearances. My mother saw what was happening. She saw the pattern forming. She warned my father. She told him, "Albert, you're not preparing him for life. You're preparing him for failure." But he brushed her off every time. He would say things like, "My son does not fail," or "He's destined for greatness." Then the collapse happened. I still remember the night my father found out that Daniel had lost everything. The shouting woke me from sleep. I stood in the hallway, trembling, hearing words like, "How could he?" And, "That much money, gone?" And, "What was he thinking?" My mother tried to calm him, but my father's pride had been hit in the one place he could not tolerate: public embarrassment. When Daniel walked in the next morning, he didn't come in humbled or quiet. He came in furious. He pointed at my father and said, "You're supposed to help me. You're my father. You can't just leave me to fix this alone." My father fired back, "You wasted everything. Everything I gave you. Everything you bragged about. And you expect more?" Daniel shouted, "You gave me money but not guidance. You just wanted to show me off." They were both right. And both terribly wrong. The argument escalated quickly. Years of unspoken resentment surfaced in minutes. My father accused him of irresponsibility. Daniel accused him of pride. My mother tried to stand between them, begging them to breathe, to stop, to think. But neither man could hear her. Then my father yelled the one sentence I wish he had never said. "You're not my son until you learn how to stand on your own 2 feet." Daniel went silent. Completely silent. Then he said, in a cold, flat voice, "Then I won't be your son at all." He walked to the door. Didn't look back. Didn't pack a bag. Didn't take anything. We didn't know it then, but that was the last time we would see him for 11 years. And that was only the beginning. For weeks after Daniel walked out, the house felt hollow. Not silent, just hollow. Like something important had been removed, but the space it left behind was still echoing. My father walked around stiffly, pretending everything was normal. He went to work earlier than usual, came home later, and barely spoke a word during dinner. My mother tried to keep the home warm, but even her softness couldn't cover the weight in the air. One night, as she washed dishes, I saw her wipe her face with her apron. Not because of soap. Not because of water. But because she didn't want me to see her tears. Mothers carry grief differently. They hold it close, quietly, as if drawing attention to it would make it heavier. I asked her, in the smallest voice, "Do you think Daniel will come back?" She kept her back to me as she answered, "Everyone comes back eventually. The question is what they've lost by the time they do." At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. But I would, much later. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. And the strange thing about time is that it doesn't heal by itself. It only gives you enough distance to pretend the wound doesn't hurt anymore. My father buried himself in work. He grew more rigid, more proud, as if doubling down on the one thing he could still control. If anyone asked him about Daniel, he would respond with a tight smile and say, "He's finding his path." But his voice always had that slight tremor, the kind that comes when someone is trying too hard to sound unaffected. My mother never stopped hoping. Every holiday, every birthday, every family gathering, she would set aside a plate, just in case. She didn't say his name much, but she spoke his absence. You could see it in how she paused before laughing too hard. Or how she stared at the door whenever someone knocked unexpectedly. I grew up in that tension. I learned very early that pride has a way of painting over cracks but never fixing them. That silence becomes a second language in some homes. That a missing son becomes a ghost everyone learns to walk around. By the time I left for university, Daniel had been gone 4 years. In that entire time, not one phone call. Not one letter. Not even a rumor. It was like he had erased himself from our story. Life moved forward anyway. I finished school, got a job, married a quiet, steady man who knew how to listen more than he spoke. We built a simple life, nothing extravagant, nothing loud. Just peaceful. Then I had my first child. When I placed that tiny baby in my arms for the first time, something inside me shifted. Motherhood rearranges you. It changes what you value, what you fear, what you pray for. I looked at that little face and thought about Daniel. About the choices he made. About the man he had become. And I wondered what could have been different if my father had shown him more patience, or if Daniel had learned humility sooner. I didn't say any of this aloud. But the thoughts stayed. One afternoon, when my parents came to visit their new grandchild, my mother held the baby and whispered, "Maybe this child will heal things in our family." My father pretended not to hear her. He kept his eyes on the baby, not with joy, but with a kind of longing I had never seen before. He touched the baby's tiny hand and swallowed hard, the way someone does when they're fighting back emotion. You see, even pride has cracks. Even stubbornness has weak spots. My father missed his son. He just didn't know how to say so without feeling like he was losing something. As the years rolled on, I had more children. My home became lively and loud, full of the joyful chaos that comes with family. And yet, every milestone, every birthday, every school performance, every Christmas morning, I felt an invisible chair at the table. An extra embrace missing. A laugh missing. A face missing. Daniel's absence wasn't loud. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that settles into the corners of your home and waits. 11 years is a long time. Long enough for a child to grow into a teenager. Long enough for parents to age. Long enough for an entire future to reshape itself. And then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, everything changed. I was folding laundry, nothing dramatic, nothing unusual, when my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. I almost didn't answer. But something in my chest told me to pick it up. When I said hello, the voice on the other end was thin, shaky, almost unrecognizable. "Lucy, It's me. For a moment, I couldn't speak. I felt the room shift. The air thicken. My hands go numb. Daniel? I whispered. There was a long pause. I could hear him breathing. I could hear something else too, fear. A kind of fear I had never heard from him before. Lucy. I need help. My heart raced. Not because I was angry. Not because I wanted apologies. But because I could hear what pride had done to him. What greed had cost him. What life had stripped away after all his choices. What happened? I asked softly. Another silence. Then. I'm not well. And I don't have anyone else to call. Those words broke something open in me. 11 years of absence. 11 years of silence. 11 years of stubbornness, pain, and distance. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Blood recognizes blood. Siblings recognize each other's brokenness. And a family, no matter how fractured, still carries its threads. I told him, tell me where you are. I'm coming. And just like that, the story that pride tried to bury began rising again. I ended the call, my hands shaking so badly I had to hold them together. I didn't even notice the tears sliding down my cheeks until I wiped my face with the back of my hand. My husband, Charles, was sitting beside me, calm and steady as always. What is it, Lucy? He asked gently, noticing my distress. It's Daniel, I whispered, my voice trembling. He's asking for help. He's alone. Charles didn't hesitate. He stood immediately, putting a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Then we go. We help him. Let's not waste another minute. I nodded. 11 years had passed since Daniel walked out of our lives in anger and pride. 11 years of distance, stubbornness, and mistakes. And now, he had reached out. The drive to his address was quiet. Charles didn't speak, he simply drove, letting me process what I was about to face. I had so many questions swirling in my mind. What had he lost? What had pride and greed cost him? But for now, I focused on one thing, getting to him safely. When we arrived at the small apartment he had given as his address, my chest tightened. The building was quiet, almost empty, the kind of place that makes you feel the weight of life pressing down on you. I parked, took a deep breath, and walked to the door, Charles close behind me. When Daniel opened the door, I hardly recognized him. He was thinner, his shoulders slumped slightly, and his eyes were tired but alert. The fire of stubbornness that had driven him all those years ago was still there, but tempered now by exhaustion and humility. Lucy, he whispered. I stepped forward immediately, wrapping my arms around him before he could say anything else. He froze for a second, then leaned in slowly, letting go of 11 years of anger, pride, and loneliness all at once. I didn't know who else to call, he admitted, voice breaking. His hands trembled as they held mine. 11 years of stubbornness and mistakes had brought him here, but somehow, he had found the courage to reach out. It's okay, I whispered. You're here now. That's what matters. Charles stood quietly behind me, letting us have this moment. His presence was steady and calm, a quiet support. I knew he was holding back his own emotions, watching this fragile reunion unfold. Daniel pulled back slightly, looking at me, tears in his eyes. I lost everything, Lucy. I thought I could do it alone. I thought I didn't need anyone. And now, I see how wrong I was. I pushed everyone away, and I'm so sorry. I held his hands tightly. Daniel, you don't have to apologize. You're back, and that's what matters. We'll figure out the rest together. He shook his head, voice raw. I don't deserve this. After all I've done. You do, I said firmly. You deserve family. You deserve forgiveness. You are my brother. Nothing, neither pride, nor greed, nor time, can change that. For the first time in over a decade, he smiled, a fragile spark of hope that had been missing for too long. And in that quiet, dim apartment, I realized something I had always known but hadn't fully understood. Pride had torn us apart, greed had blinded him, but love and forgiveness could still bring us back together. We stayed there for hours, talking, crying, and quietly laughing. Though the road ahead would be long, I knew this was the first step toward healing, for Daniel, for our parents, and for all of us. Because family, no matter how broken, no matter how long the silence, always leaves a thread. And sometimes, it only takes one person willing to reach across the years to begin weaving it back together. After that day, Daniel stayed with us for a while. Not permanently, he still needed to figure out where he belonged, but long enough to start reconnecting with his family. The first few days were quiet. Every movement, every word, seemed measured, as if he was testing whether the world would accept him again. At first, I noticed the little things. How he hesitated before sitting down at the dinner table. How he didn't laugh easily at my children's jokes. How he kept glancing at Charles and me as if seeking permission to exist in our home again. I understood. After 11 years of pride, stubbornness, and isolation, it takes time to learn humility. To learn that you can lean on others without being ashamed. Slowly, we started to talk, not just about the past, but about the present. I wanted him to see that mistakes do not erase who we are. I wanted him to feel that family doesn't close its doors, even when the silence feels permanent. One afternoon, I caught him in the kitchen, staring at the window. Thinking? I asked softly. He looked at me, a small, tired smile on his face. I'm thinking about how much I've wasted. Not just money, but time. Time with you, with Mom and Dad, with everyone. I put my hand on his shoulder. You can't get those years back. But you can start from now. That's all anyone can ask. Over the next weeks, Daniel began helping Charles with some small tasks in the family business. Not money, not power, but small, practical work, inventory, bookkeeping, learning the ropes. At first, he was clumsy, frustrated with himself. But every day he tried again. Every day he asked questions instead of pretending to know everything. I watched him and thought about how pride had almost destroyed him. How greed had blinded him to what truly mattered. And yet, here he was, slowly learning the most important lessons of life: humility, patience, and the value of family. Our parents, too, began to open their hearts again. My father, who had been distant and proud, softened over time. My mother never stopped hoping, never stopped forgiving. And with Daniel back, the house began to feel like home once more, warm, messy, alive. There were setbacks, of course. Old arguments bubbled up unexpectedly. Daniel would snap, or Charles would get impatient, or one of the children would misinterpret a comment. But each time, we reminded ourselves, we are family. Family is patient, even when it's hard. Family forgives, even when it's painful. One evening, as we sat together after dinner, Daniel spoke quietly. "I've learned something I should have understood a long time ago," he said. "Money, success, none of it matters if you don't have the people who love you. Pride and greed can make you blind, but love shows you the truth." I smiled, tears welling in my eyes. Exactly. And now that you see it, you can live differently. You can make better choices, and we can help you. He nodded, the weight of years of mistakes still in his eyes, but lighter than before. "I want to try," he said simply. "I want to be part of this family again, fully. And I want to make up for the years I lost." And in that moment, I realized something I had always known. It is never too late to rebuild what pride and greed have tried to destroy. It takes courage to ask for help, humility to accept it, and love to guide the way. We spent the rest of that evening sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments of understanding. For the first time in over a decade, the house felt complete again, not perfect, not without flaws, but alive, healing, and whole. And I knew, as I looked at my brother, at my husband, at our children, that the lessons of pride and greed are painful, but the lessons of forgiveness, patience, and love are far more powerful. Over the next few months, Daniel slowly found his place again in our family. It wasn't easy, old habits die hard, and pride still whispered in quiet moments, but each day he tried. Each day he apologized when he needed to, each day he offered help without expectation. He learned what humility felt like, what patience meant, and how much stronger love is than stubbornness. My parents, who had carried his absence quietly for 11 years, began to laugh again. They welcomed him back not as the boy who walked away, but as the man who had returned with honesty, remorse, and a desire to be better. My children, once distant from their uncle, started to share small moments of trust and laughter. Slowly, the threads that pride and greed had frayed were being woven back together, stronger than before. One evening, after dinner, we all sat in the living room together. Daniel told stories about the mistakes he had made, and we listened, not to judge, but to understand. And in that room, for the first time in over a decade, the air felt light, warm, and safe. I looked at Charles and smiled softly. "You see," I said quietly, "it takes courage to come back. It takes humility to ask for forgiveness. And it takes love to guide the way." Daniel met my eyes and nodded. "I see it now. I wasted so many years chasing pride and trying to prove myself. I thought I was stronger alone. But I was wrong. Family is everything." And I realized, in that moment, that life has a way of teaching its lessons through pain. Pride and greed are powerful. They can blind you, divide you, and make you feel invincible. But love, forgiveness, and patience are even stronger. They rebuild what was broken, heal what was wounded, and bring people home, even after the longest absences. That night, as we said goodnight and closed the doors, I felt a deep sense of peace. Daniel was home. Our family was healing. And the lessons of life, about humility, generosity, and the power of love over pride, were no longer abstract ideas. They were living, breathing realities in the people I loved most. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this: never let pride keep you from the people who love you, never let greed blind you to what truly matters, and always choose forgiveness and love over anger or resentment. Life is short, but family is forever. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true-to-life family stories and lessons that will stay with you long after the video ends. And remember, no matter how long the silence, no matter how heavy the mistakes, love always leaves a thread.